Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how you use the new universal project types inside Visual Studio. The universal project types in Visual Studio are great for anyone who's planning to build an app and knows right away they want to target both Windows 8 and Windows Phone with their application, because the universal project type is designed to help you share your code across the two projects. What I'll do in this video is I'm going to focus in on how to create the projects, the different templates you can choose from, and the files that are created. In subsequent videos, I'll show you how you go in and add the code and do your testing. So what I'm going to do, like any other project in Visual Studio, I'm going to start by saying File, New, Project. And you can see that under Visual C# Store Apps, there's a new template option called Universal Apps. You'll also see this option listed under JavaScript Store Apps and also under C++ Store Apps. So you've got 3 different programming languages you can choose from if you want to try the Universal App template. It's not available in Visual Basic yet. Now, which one do you want to work with? It's really a matter of personal preference. If you come from a web development background, maybe you're comfortable with HTML and JavaScript, then go ahead and pick the JavaScript template. If you come from a .NET background, you're probably going to pick Visual C#. If you're building a lot of high-performance games, you might prefer working in C++. The important thing to be aware of is the programming language you choose is not going to limit the functionality of your application. It's really a question of pick the language you are going to be the most comfortable programming in. So whatever is going to be the most productive for you. Personally, I come from a .NET background, so I'm going to go ahead with C#. Now, once I've picked my programming language, I then have to choose which of the 3 templates or project types I want to work with. So you can see I have 4 choices here: blank app, hub app, class library, and Windows Runtime Component. The class library and Windows Runtime Component are for building elements of a project that you want to share across different application types, like Windows 8 and Windows Phone. I want to create an actual application, so I'm going to pick either blank app or hub app. The difference between the two: if I create a blank app, it's going to create me a Windows 8 app and a Windows Phone app, and each one will have a single screen by default. If I choose a hub app, then by default it's going to create a Windows 8 and a Windows Phone app, each of which will have 3 screens. It's designed for sort of a drill down logic. So if you know you're going to be building an app where there's going to be categories and then you can pick a category and see the details for that category, you'd probably want to choose the hub app. But I'm going to do the classic Hello World to get us started, so the blank app's going to be fine for me. So I'm going to choose blank app, and I'm going to build Hello Universal as my project name, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Create. So at this point, what's happened is now we can take a look inside the Solution Explorer, and I want to point out the projects that have been created for me. So what we've got here is we've got a Windows app, the one here that actually says Windows on it, and then we've also got a Windows Phone app, and we've got Hello Universal Shared. So as you might guess, the project called Windows contains the files for our Windows application. The one called .Windows Phone contains the files for a Windows Phone application, and the one called Shared is where we can put code that will be available to both the Windows Phone and the Windows application. So the XAML, which defines your front end of your code, is going to be specific for the individual applications, but a lot of the code you write behind the scenes can easily be shared. And when you build the application, anything you put in Shared will be built into your Windows Phone or Windows applications. Now, you might be wondering, if I go ahead and run my application, what's going to run, Windows or Windows Phone? Well, let's find out. If I go ahead and start debugging, you'll notice that it actually launches the Windows 8 application immediately. Now, at the moment, of course, my application doesn't do anything, but there's a Windows 8 application up and running. If you want to run the Windows Phone application because maybe you're making work in those files and you want to test those files instead, very simple. Under your debug options, as well as having the usual choices of how do you want to debug your Windows 8 app, you see a new option called Startup Project. This allows you to choose which project you want to launch when you're in the debugger. As soon as I change that startup project, you'll notice I now have the typical choices for I want to test and debug a Windows Phone application, ask me which emulator I want to launch, or if I have a phone connected to my computer. And again, I can switch back to Windows 8 if I want to. And if I was to pick the emulator and I run, it will actually go ahead and launch the emulator up on the screen so I can test my phone application. If you have already worked with Visual Studio before with multiple projects, you do have another way to change which project launches first, if you prefer, and that is simply to right-click on the project you want to start and choose Set as Startup Project. So whichever way you're more comfortable with. So that's all I want to show you right now. Now we know how to create a universal project, what programming languages we can choose from, and how to determine which program is launched when we use the debugger. In the next video, we'll start adding some code.